Dear friends of the Tom Photo channel, I was warned that if I ever decided to get the Fuji XF56mm f1.2R, it could cut me like a knife because it's that sharp. The experience was supposed to be surreal, but how can a lens be a razor blade under the hood, secretly? What's going on here? I decided to acquire the lens and find out firsthand. I've now taken countless of photos with this lens in all kinds of scenarios, secretly hoping to see it fail in some situations. But this thing keeps putting out photos with yet unseen sharpness and quality, one after the other. You may have seen sharper lenses, but I haven't. This one's special, let me tell you. This lens was not on my list for some time because the XF 35mm f1.4R was getting the job done for me. I could not believe that something could top the legendary XF35, but eventually I started to miss the longer focal length and opted for the 56mm. This is 85mm full frame equivalent. Most people get it for portrait photography because it's tailor-made for that purpose, but I wanted it for landscapes, for those very special calendar-style photos slowly and most carefully taken from the tripod. The lens has a build quality even better than most other Fuji XF lenses. It's a solid piece of glass and metal, no plastic anywhere. And this of course includes the lens mount and lens barrel. It's built unlike most other lenses, absolutely top quality. The lens comes with a hood, a nice and deep one. It's an aspherical lens with 11 elements in 8 groups. Spherical and chromatic aberrations are low. The contrast and detail are simply superb. The lens is not small or light. It weighs 405 grams and has dimensions of about 73 × 70 millimeters. The filter size is 62, and you need this large size to enable f-stop 1.2 at 56mm focal length. This lens opens up wider than any of my other lenses. It is super bright, perfect for those low light conditions, but more importantly, perfect for amazing bokeh. I use the bokeh to photograph flowers. True that the lens is not a very good macro lens because you can only get to 60 centimeters from your subject. Still, this is quite okay for flowers if you don't need a true close-up shot. The bokeh is very nice, but some would say it's nothing too special. No circles like you get with the Helios lenses, and no super duper creamy either, but it works very well for me, and I think it is much above average good, courtesy of 7 rounded aperture blades. Let me demonstrate you how shallow the plane of focus is at f1.2 when you get maximally close to the subject. Here I am 60 centimeters from the zero of the tape measure and about 35 centimeters above the ground. You see how quickly the tape measure numbers become unreadable. Nice. I mostly use this lens at f-stop 1.2, so I almost don't need the aperture plates in there. I mean, if you invest in a lens like this and then turn it down to a small aperture, then what's the point? It's like driving a Ferrari around a racetrack at street speeds. There is a newer version of this lens out, the XF56mm f1.2WR. That is weather resistant, and some would say it has slightly improved optics, but very marginally so. I'm so happy with the optics of my lens, I'm not sure I'd want someone to take it apart and make changes in its build, but apparently Fuji has no limits and can go even farther. The lens has 2 rings. The aperture ring makes nice, smooth, high-quality clicks. Not too loose, not too tight. The focusing ring is wide and turns like butter. You feel the hydraulics-like resistance as you turn it. For me, this is a sign of quality. Obviously, the lens has no optical image stabilization. If it did, people wouldn't buy it because then you run the risk of lowering your photo quality. So use a fast shutter speed, tripod, or a camera body with image stabilization. Let's also determine the sweet spot of this lens by photographing a fully flat painting 2 meters from the camera. Please see the links to my videos down below that detail how I measure photo sharpness and lens sweet spot. You will also find my links to the other relevant videos down there. The f-stop versus sharpness graph looks interesting. The lens is not the least sharp at f1.2. This is quite amazing. You get the speed, bokeh, and great sharpness all together in one package. Then there's a dip in sharpness beyond f1.2. After f2.8, it goes up again. Then there's a high plateau between f5.6 and f8. This is where the lens cuts like a knife. This is also the range where the sweet spot is. Looks like a sweet spot is around 8, but it could also be a little bit lower. At smaller apertures, the depth of field increases, and if the lens's focal plane is not perfectly flat, then the increased depth of field will bring the corners to better focus. This means that the overall photo will look sharper with smaller apertures, but we have actually gone past the sweet spot value. One always needs to consider that, and I will go into it in another video. Please see the links below. Even at f16, the sharpness is still there. f16 is as far as this lens goes. After that, the diffraction would become a major problem anyway. Let's compare the sharpness graph with that of the Fuji XF 35mm f1.4R. We see that the graph for XF56 is much more flat than that of the XF35. Of course, the values are relative to the sweet spot of each lens, so this graph does not show which lens is sharper in absolute terms. The lens focuses quickly, but not super quickly. Works very well for my landscapes, but maybe not so well for sports photography, for example. It makes some noise as it focuses, but not as much as the tractor-sounding XF35 f1.4R. See the link below. The noise will be heard in the video though if your microphone is near the lens. I feel that this is a specialized lens. It's too large and has a fixed focal length to be a travel lens. The focus is not very fast for moving objects. The focal length is too long for it to be an all-around lens. This is rarely the only lens that you would carry with you. For this reason, it's probably not among the top lenses on most people's Fuji gear shopping list. I'll use it for landscape, but also for filming. It will be so nice for cinematic filming next to my 35mm f1.4. But I absolutely recommend this lens. If you are at the appropriate point on your photography road, and if you already have the 35mm lens in your arsenal. I absolutely recommend it for portrait shooters. Is it even possible to find anything better? This lens is my sharpest so far. It is among the ones I'm least likely to sell. Still, I intend to hang on to my 35mm f1.4 even tighter for its versatility. Thank you for the opportunity to spend some quality time with you. If you consider subscribing to my channel or maybe putting a like under the video, I'll be most happy. I hope to talk to you about photography again very soon. Goodbye.